It's a battle of Heaven Hill's middle year releases. Today we're comparing Elijah Craig Barrel Proof and Larceny Barrel Proof batch B523. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So, every year, Heaven Hill comes out with these two staples of the semi-allocated whiskey release calendar. We've got Elijah Craig Barrel Proof and Larceny Barrel Proof, always coming out 3 times a year with those A, B, C batches. Usually supposed to be in like January, May, and then September, but it will vary a lot when they come out. In any case, we're sitting here, it's the middle of June, and we've got both releases for the middle of the year, B523. A couple of interesting stories here so far. We've got the Elijah Craig, which has lost its 12-year age statement, is only 11 years and 5 months old. It's been causing a little bit of a stir and some hysteria around whether or not this is the end of its greatness. I think this is still a pretty solid batch. And then we've got the Larceny Barrel Proof B523, which, if you ask me, Larceny Barrel Proof has been kind of killing it lately and often beating its older brother. So this batch so far has been impressing me quite a bit. Really interested to put these head to head and see which one I would prefer and which one I think is more worth your money. Okay, quickly, just in terms of stats of bottles that we are comparing here, the Elijah Craig, like I said, is 11 years and 5 months old. Proof here is 124.2 proof. This is just their standard bourbon with rye content in it mash bill. I believe that is 78% corn, 12% malted barley, and 10% rye. Larceny Barrel Proof, we are looking at something that is in the 6 to 8 year old range. Proof point here is 124.4 proof, so just 0.2 proof higher than the Elijah Craig. And here this is a wheated mash bill, so we've got 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% malted barley. Should be interesting to see how these compare. Again, each year these come out and I'm gonna grab them up right around $60 to $70. The Elijah Craig, I believe the MSRP is $70 and the Larceny is $60, slightly cheaper, less age on it for sure. But again, the question is which whiskey is really better, so let's just dive in. I'm gonna actually start out with the Larceny Barrel Proof. Wheated profile, a little bit softer, might actually be the best place to start. So let's dive in, see what this has to offer on the nose, then we'll compare to Elijah Craig. Nose here is nice. I've been noting like a really solid toffee note on this, and that comes through strong. Caramel, a little bit of vanilla bean, some cinnamon, just like kind of pure cinnamon stick, a little bit dry cinnamon. And along with that is like a clove, maybe like a nutmeg kind of spice. But I really like that sweet toffee note. Some berries in here too. Cherry, maybe even like a nice ripe blackberry kind of note. It's a really good nose. There's a little singe to it, a little bit of heat, but not too much. It kind of has a nice mix of those fruits and those darker, sweet, syrupy, pancakey, sugary notes. Really, really nice. All right. Let's compare that to the Elijah Craig on the nose. Ooh, different. More apple and brown sugar. Yeah, the apple note is strong. You can tell they're from a similar family, because they've got those similar brown sugar notes for sure that we've come to love from Heaven Hill. There might be a slight more peanutty, just straight up almond peanut butter kind of note here. But there's a stewed apple, sugary apple note here with that brown sugar caramel and like a kind of slightly cooked apple. And a lot more honey. This one's a little bit, it's got some of those dark sugars, but it's a little bit crisper of a nose, but kind of inviting in just a different way. Both of them are powerful. Both of them are barrel strength, so they do have a little bit of a singe, a little bit of ethanol going on both. I do think the Elijah Craig has a touch more of that ethanol quality. But again, Larceny barrel proof, you're getting these like berry notes with these rich dark sugars and toffee. Elijah Craig, you're getting more of this stewed apple, brown sugar, and a little bit of like a honey crisp kind of thing going on. All right, neither is disappointing on the nose. Both are really solid. I won't reveal which one I'm leaning toward yet until we dive into the palate, because that's where we're gonna get a lot more information. All right, let's start with the Larceny barrel proof on the palate. Cheers, everybody. Nice. Yeah, that is nice and warm and rich on the palate. Fruit-wise, I did get that blackberry note, and I get this like stone fruit plum kind of note as well. There's some cherry in there too. So the fruits are nice. Really nice for this sort of summer experience when this comes out. Love that plum and blackberry kind of bursting out there. There is a lot of that nice toffee, rich and smooth toffee with this brown sugar, caramel note wrapped around it as well. And the back end is that cinnamon stick and nutmeg and clove kind of spice, especially that cinnamon, a little bit of like a cinnamon red hot effect again on the back of the palate there. So really nice sip, complex, layered. What's one of the most impressive things about it is just how robust it feels in the mouth. Really great mouthfeel on that. All right, let me get some water and we'll go to the Elijah Craig barrel proof. Always good to refresh the palate. Let's go to the Elijah Craig barrel proof on the palate. Cheers. So a lot transferred over from the nose. Two things I'm noting here though, especially coming off the Larceny, there are aged notes. There's like a tobacco on the back end especially, and there is like a strong oak presence, just this hefty, chewy kind of oak. Very solid, especially toward the back end of the sip. Front end of the sip is more of that like stewed apple, brown sugar, and honey note. So again, that transferred over from the nose nicely. It is hot, it's got spice to it, cinnamon spice here as well, a little bit of an ethanol kick. There's a little bit more of like a drying effect on the back end, some of those aged notes. And again, there's like a dry peanut, maybe an almond. Some of the nutmeg might be shared between these two, but this one comes across as a little bit of a drier spice, which is nice. I think the rye spice here, the kick on the back end, helps it linger quite a long time. Really solid sip as well. Okay, so we've got two really solid first sips. Let's go in for second sips where we'll develop a little bit more on the palate. We'll pick out some more flavors and really see which way we're leaning. Just for fairness sake, we'll go in reverse order. We'll start with the Elijah Craig and then move to the Larceny on this sip. So, cheers everybody. Yeah. The mouthfeel here is also very nice, very solid in that department. The experience here for me is more of this tart apple note that really kind of defines the sip, especially in the front and mid palate. It's got this brown sugar, honey, and really strong apple that is a little bit tart, bordering on sour, but not quite that extreme. And then it really kind of transitions to this oaky rye spice, nutmeg, cinnamon, but dry kind of kick to it on the back end. Some of that honey kind of lingers on the palate into the finish to keep it a little bit sweeter. But again, it starts with that stewed apple, sugary note, gets a little tart in the middle, and then moves toward this like spicy finish for sure. All right, let's compare back to the Larceny. Let me get some water. All right, let's dive back in. Yeah, the nose is really good. All right, cheers. Dang, yeah. That is a nice reverse comparison. It makes it even more stark how much of the stone fruit and blackberry and plum is on this. Really solid with those fruity notes. This one just strikes me as a darker turn. The fruits are a little bit darker, and then the sugars are a little bit darker instead of that like lighter, nice brown sugar with the apple. On the Elijah Craig, here I'm getting this like maple syrup, molasses kind of experience. Sort of a cinnamon stick wrapped around that for the spice. That kicks up especially toward the back end. The mid palate has this toffee richness to it. It's just rich sugars, darker experience, darker fruits. The wheat kind of gives it these softer, less aggressive flavors. The rye here I think gives it like more of a kick, more of a tart experience for me. On the Elijah Craig, the Larceny gets these softer, rounded off edges. It's not really sharp in any way. It's just got this smooth, slow rolling kind of vibe to it. All right, everybody. Both of these whiskeys are totally showing up today, which is awesome. They're also just continuing to get better as I sip on them, which is something you search for in a barrel strength offering, that it just continues to open up and offer more flavors. So thumbs up to both for the experience. When it comes to comparing them, they're just very different. The Elijah Craig, though it's older, has more of a punchy, tart palate. Might be a little bit thinner. You could read some astringency in there, but overall, I think it's really just this apple, brown sugar, and a nice crisp, raw kind of honey note. It really kicks in. That, yes, it's a little bit younger than their typical age statement for Elijah Craig, but it gives it this really nice, punchy, tart, different kind of experience for me. And it's just really nice. I compare this to something like, I have the Discovery Series number 8 from Bardstown Bourbon Company that has a lot of that apple tartness on it with some of that brown sugar. This is more in that category, and the rye spice is really nice on the back end. But compare it to the Larceny, which is rounded and robust, has this summerberry, plum, blackberry core to it, which is just phenomenal. And then it has this deeper, darker molasses note with the toffee and some of the caramel coming through as well. And then it also has some spice that's more in that cinnamon stick, nutmeg category. When it comes to what I prefer, it's Larceny Barrel Proof once again. I mean, I just think it's maybe this wheated, softer, rounded, robust profile that they seem to have really figured out with Larceny Barrel Proof that I gravitate toward. But this is just another phenomenal batch, and I can't wait to see how this continues to open up. I'm impressed. I'm really ready to see how this does in end of the year, whiskey of the year competitions, because color it in now, folks. I think this is a front runner. All right, everybody, that's going to be it today for our comparison of these two middle of the year batches from Heaven Hill, Elijah Craig and Larceny Barrel Proof B523. Let me know, have you been able to taste both of these batches or even compare them? What were your results? Have you been able to taste one or the other? Let me know what you thought. And maybe, are you chasing both of these, and are you excited about both of these batches? Want to start a conversation around these batches from Heaven Hill in the comments below. While you're at it, hit that like button, consider subscribing to the channel and joining us for the journey through the rest of 2023 and beyond. Until I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.